Hello, my name is Lindy Cowling and welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk. My email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. And the title of this video this evening is The Reformation of Relationships. The reformation, the reformation of relationships. So as you may know from watching any previous videos that I have brought out over the last just over a year, slightly longer than a year, I have talked extensively on the different angles and the different energy perspectives and the blueprints and the templates of what I will call the new relationship paradigm as a direct result of ascension, as a direct result of the descension, the bringing down of our higher self, if you like, the oversoul, into the embodiment of the true being we are, which is essentially what ascension is, bringing it down into the 5D and upwards portal of the heart. As a result of that evolutionary step, as a consequence of many on this planet being mission formatted to lay down some of these ascension templates and blueprints, the twin flame union being right in the heart of that, because again, the twin flame union has brought through the frequency, the vibration, the blueprint, the template for the creation of a new relationship paradigm, which means everybody gets to access, if it's their soul's choice, their spiritual journey, everybody gets to access the opportunity, if they so wish, to tap into a higher level of spiritual and soul connection with someone. As a result of all these things, we are now accessing, witnessing, and seeing miraculous unfoldments of new waves of relationships, new ways of relating with one another. Because of the world that we live in, I've said this many times before and it does make me smile, people like to give names to things and they like to give labels to things because they like to categorize things, and sometimes I think it's because we like to understand things or we like to analyze them, and sometimes in a way I think it gives people some form of security or some kind of way of pigeonholing something. Sometimes it helps for us to, well, it helps us to be able to understand it and comprehend it. So I've been talking about this for many months now, what I've been seeing working with these energies. And I've been saying that there's this brand new energy, and I can see it, I can feel it. It's got harmony, it's harmonious written right across it. And it's the direct result of the twin flame union and others, but the twin flame union is one that I'm involved with, so I like to talk again experientially from the experience I've had and have and work with. But there's a new blueprint, new templates down now where People now have the opportunity to connect in a harmonious, high level connection. When I say high level, they're connecting in spirit and soul first. That's driving the boat, or steering the boat, driving the bus, whatever analogy you want to use. And this is now starting to happen, and it has a harmonious feeling to it. Now, when I say it has a harmonious feeling to it, that doesn't mean to say that those connections are 100% guaranteed to definitely come together, it definitely be fine. Yes, they are relationship templated. I'm going to repeat that. They're relationship templated, which makes them different from the twin flame union, who are service orientated. And part of that service is to be in connection, in partnership, spiritual and soul partnership, but they are not relationship templated, that they can be around each other if it's beneficial to the mission, and they can be around each other in all different forms, but that's not what's driving the show. When these connections come together with this harmonious signature on it, they are relationship templated, which means they do have the potential, listen to that word, the potential to come together in a harmonious fashion. They are not really there to trigger one another or work through any of that stuff and bring up stuff like that. That essentially, by the time these ignite, this reformation of relationships, the spiritual and soul connections that people are recognizing within one another now, they do have far more potential for a harmonious outcome. You know, so I'm saying, you know, I've said that in different ways in the last, I think several times on video I've said that in different ways, but that there is a huge, in some way it is an evolutionary step. There's a reformation of relationships here. So again, I'm going to repeat, slight difference from the conventional twin flame union, which is service orientated. And what is happening is there's the waves really of people now starting to connect with one another with many of the characteristics that twin flames have. But there's a slightly different sound and a slightly different feel to them because they have this harmonious signature on them, which means their purpose really in how they grow and how they put out their optimal frequency, how they are most connected with the source of who they are and their higher self. They can do that in many ways, but one of the ways they are able to do that is actually with interreaction and interrelating with a compatible frequency from their, what you would call a soul group or soul family, whatever, however you want to term that, that has that harmonious signature on it. Now I will call these something else. I will not call these twin flames. I will call them ascensionary soulmates. Somebody else might call that something else, but we're talking about the same thing. It's I've said this before, twin flame union, midnight, ascensionary soulmate, it's 1 minute past. Very, very similar characteristics, with the harmonious relationship templating being the difference, which makes a different sound and has a different feeling to it. So we're in the whole ball game now, the paradigm of sacred relating, spiritual relating, soul relating. That is going to become commonplace. That will be as commonplace as, you know, showing my age here now, going back to the disco and seeing a boy you fancy across the room and having that automatic attraction. It will be as commonplace as that. People will not necessarily go immediately for the physical characteristics. They will feel the soul connection, they will feel the spirit connection. I'm not saying the physical won't matter to them, I'm saying that doesn't drive the show in a fifth dimensional and upwards connection. And in fact, that's not a bad thing. In fact, it's amazing, because you're not restricted to that 3D linear view any longer. You will connect with people that help you to reflect, if you like, and express your optimal best. You know, people that are compatible, you know, compatible frequencies and vibrations. So it literally, it's really exciting to see it, like I say, because this is a whole new relationship paradigm. And relationships, the forerunners of those, yes, we know, are the relationships where you have a romantic connection. But again, I've said this many times on camera before, relationships are across the board. There are the relationships you have with friends, family, soul family, in your workplace, in your career. It's every part of society. There's no division here. And you may very well find that as you're driven to connect on these, well, on your optimal level of frequency, really, that many people fall away from you, that you're not in sync with one another anymore, so you're not comfortable in one another's space, and you will vibrate, really bounce towards members of your soul group, your soul family, or others that don't necessarily have to be that, but they're just of compatible frequency. They're very much heart driven. That is a very comfortable space for a lot of us to be in at the moment, and it's very uncomfortable for us to be around for very long, people that are very much on a linear mindset and a linear frequency. You know, you're going to be drawn to be around people that you can collaborate with, you know, co-collaborate, create with, that you are fully at home, you know, with no effort involved, really. You're just 100% who you truly are. They are not triggered at all by who you truly are. They are 100% who they truly are. It's a whole different way of relating. I was going to say it has a depth to it. It has a depth to it, but it also has a lightness to it, because it's the spirit that is driving this. And when you're connecting on that level, the spirit that you are truly shines through. You are actually, like I say, you light up, you're glowing, they light up, they're glowing. The whole vibration of the room raises. The people that you're in the room with that notice it. It's a tangible energy. I was going to say people in the room notice it. It's funny, I have experienced before, when your vibration is running at that extent and you've got someone mirroring a compatible frequency alongside you, it's rather magical, because as your vibration increases, and I don't believe, I know this is possible, you can get to such a rate of frequency where in some ways you're not even visible to the people around you, because you're on in some ways it's like you're in two different dimensions. So people won't even kind of notice that you're there, because I use the analogy of a bit like a ghost in the room, really. You know, it's two different frequencies, and to some people they would see that ghost and some wouldn't, depending on what frequency they were on. It's comparable to that. Also, you know, I'll deviate off a little bit, but along the same kind of lines. When you're talking to people at that level, and like I say, it doesn't have to be romantically. You could be around, for example, I'll use an example with me. You know, one or two girlfriends. You know, girls that I know, friends of mine, that are heart driven, and have the same kind of effect can take place. Or you can be talking, and this has happened many, many times over the last few years, and there are many, many people witness to it and that can attest to it being what, you know, what I'm saying being true, where all the music, say you're in a restaurant or a pub or a bar or something, all the music will follow by several seconds later what you're saying. So you will say a sentence and then the music will be coming out of the speakers. The song will change and it will exactly play the sentence that you just said, or you'll be starting to say something and it will finish what you were saying coming through the speakers, and people will just fall about laughing, or they just light up, because again, I often use this analogy, it's like being in a Harry Potter film. It's quite magical actually to see it unfold. And these kind of, you would call it synchronicity, this actual elevated flow, really, this elevated flow of consciousness becomes very, very apparent. And when it first happens to people, they're either quite shocked, and sometimes they're a little bit nervous or afraid, but usually they just become very childlike and their eyes fill with tears and they feel really excited and happy. And again, I've said this before, it's like finding out Santa Claus is true, you know, yay, Santa's real, you know, all that kind of thing, and it brings people alive again, lights them up, makes them feel full of life. I mean, on that subject, like I was saying, I mean, I've deviated a bit there, but in a way it's linked, because you know, I'm using that example as when you're around people that can match your frequency, or even if it's not match it, but they're not intimidated by your frequency, you're not automatically triggering them just by being you. And that is a huge side effect as you are coming into who you truly are. People love that and they're not afraid of it, or they're petrified of it or triggered by it. And when somebody's triggered, the first thing they do is point the finger straight at you, because they won't be able to make sense of it, but they'll just know, well, I was around that person, suddenly I felt all this stuff come up, anger, all this, you know, huge emotional response. And of course it's nothing to do with you at all, really, you know, it's just the vibration you're putting out and it brings up stuff for them. But the point I'm making here is when you're in this paradigm of reformed relationships, really, because everything is reforming and changing and moving, energy is always changing and moving. Like I say, whether it's in friendships, soul family, your family, earth family, lovers, partners, whatever way, you know, you're relating with, this affects all right across the board. And when you are with people that, like I say, aren't threatened by that frequency or vibration, they're not triggered by it, you don't trigger them, they don't trigger you. It's not only is it a very comfortable space to be in, but it's a very magical space to be in, because it's creation happening literally as we speak, literally in the moment. So what is coming out of your mouth literally forms or replicates in your physical environment, not just your spiritual environment or the etheric dimensions, the etheric side of it. I mean physically there in front of you, around you, very, very quickly. I would say almost immediately. Almost immediately. And I can tell you a little tale about that. I'm deviating a little bit again. Going back a few years, there was an instance when I was fully in the middle, physically in the middle of the twin flame union, around the twin flame at that time. And I can't go into all the details here because it wouldn't be appropriate, but we were interacting with one another, and I can't remember now the exact sentence I used, but we weren't aware at that time that we were playing with instant creation. I wouldn't say instant manifestation, I'd say instant creation. But there was something that I said when we were very, very closely, being very closely physically connected, that was a little bit more on the challenging side of it, not the positive side of it so much. And it was something that I said to do with a question or a question mark or something like that. I really can't remember now. It's a few years back now. And I can honestly tell you, within 30 minutes, because I'd said something about a question or a question mark formed. It formed between the bottom of my nose and the top of my lip. In fact, it's still there to this day. It's tiny, tiny question mark. It formed instantly, and this is the point here that I'm making. When you're, I'm not going to say playing around with that energy, but when you are in that kind of energy, you can create very, very quickly. And you can't, I've said this before, when you're coming from the heart, you can really create amazing things, create miracles. And I've said many times before, you can't misuse that energy. Now, the example I've just given you there, like I say, I can't remember the sentence I used now. It wasn't hugely negative or anything like that. It was something that was a little bit, I can't even remember now, but I think it was slightly fear-based, I guess. I know it was something to do with a question or a question mark, which is why a question mark formed. But I've said this many times before. Once you hit the 5D frequency, 5D baseline frequency of the heart and upwards, once you've made that step, which many have now, you can't misuse that energy. You can't misuse creation, because creation comes from, it comes from a purity, it comes from a childlike purity, it comes from a vulnerability. It comes from that space, and so it can't be manipulated or changed. And even the example I used there it was like kids being given clay and not knowing what to do with that clay. What do I do with this? You know, how do I form it? And forming something that was a bit, like a bit splodgy. That's not, you know, that's not misused. It's just not quite knowing how to use the tools that you've realized you have. Like I say, that was a real literally eye-opener for me. I thought, wow, that's extraordinary. So again, you know, the reformation of relationships right across the board here. People meeting people at work that they're connecting straight away soul, straight away spirit, having some of the metaphysical symptoms that the twin flame union has described before. Much more harmonious signature on it. That doesn't mean to say infallible. You're still human, still walking along these steps, but much, much more harmonious feeling to it. Not for the exact same purpose. If you want me to put it simply, they're learning from interrelating, learning through relationships. The twin flame union isn't here to learn through relationships. They're here, service orientated, to lay down the templating and the blueprints for relationships. So exciting times, because it's all just only starting to happen. It's very, very new. It's just been birthed, like I say, in a matter of months. So much more to come. In some ways, many of us could say it's been worthwhile, because certainly from my point of view, you know, even if I was to walk off camera again and you didn't ever see me on camera again, which I don't plan to be the case, even if that was so, from my point of view, I feel like certainly I've played my part in being one of many, many, many people that laid down that template and that blueprint. I'm really hoping, I'm using my words carefully here, hoping now that I can have some bloody good fun and play now, because it sure is overdue, long overdue. I'm pretty much done with the crawling through the trenches, the suffering, that side of it, and I really want to now, I think it's time really just to play. play and to have some fun and to play around with that joy again, you know, rather than, you know, I feel like many who's been in the genuine twin flame union, especially when those unions have come down or collapsed, or one of us has chosen to go forward in a mission on our own, we really have been through the battlefield. I feel it's really important, you know, wherever you are in the world and whatever stage you're at in the connections that you're in, whether it be twin flame union, any of the other names you want to call it, ascensionary soulmates, spiritual connections, whatever you want to call them, soul connections. We really are in a time, you, me, you know, I include myself in that, a time where we 100% have to honour ourselves here. For me, part of that honouring myself was to leave the part of country that I was living in. For me, it's to be now 10 minutes off the coast, wonderful coastline, 10 minutes from where I'm living, honouring not just the spiritual and soul, which I've been doing for a long time, but honouring, and I've got that full embodiment now, but honouring the physical body. I think I've said this again many times on camera, and I'm going to repeat it again. As a result of my background, as a result of my templating, as a result of my history, as a result of many things, and the wonderful ingredients and the complexities that go up to making us human, I most definitely have took for most of my life a huge pasting in the physical body, huge amount of illness in the physical body, huge amount of pain in the physical body and suffering in the physical body. That's, out of anything, has been my hugest lesson on this earth. And I've only just learned to honour, and still I'm learning in a way, you know, all this way down the line, and to come into complete embodiment within my body, not separate from my body, as many did in my generation, especially in the light worker, I hate that term light worker, but the light worker industry. We separated off from our bodies and went flying off up there with the, you know, the angelic realms, the fairies, and forgot that we were human beings, and to bring it down is essential. You can't be doing blueprinting or templating or live in this world if you don't bring it down into the body. And because for all the reasons I said, it was very habitual for a long time for me to leave the body, to continuously leave the body and leave the poor old body, you know, and come out of it really. So I've had to learn a bit like, again, like a baby, how to be in my body, which for most of my life I haven't been in my body, especially if I've been very, very sick. I've left my body. So that's, you know, it's wonderful to feel that and not feel separate from my body. That's been a few years now that I've been able to feel that, the last year particularly. And the next step for me is to honour my body much more than I've ever done before, which is going to result again in some big changes for me. There's been a couple of people talking along these lines, which I will list. Palona Songrak, Ascension Pioneers, has been talking about the ascended body. Mel and Nicole Goldray, Twin Flames, just brought out an excellent video on ascending in the body. Ulf Hawkness, UFO Starseed, Twin Flame Reiki. Ulf, he's also talked about the importance of honouring what you eat, and herbs and vitamins and all that side of it. He had to learn again the hard way, like many of us. And for me, although by many people's standards, I don't smoke, I don't drink, never have, eat huge amounts of sugar, which basically is killing me physically. And so for me, you know, next part of my process is I'll probably start to go like this on camera as I get very, very thin. Maybe not, maybe I won't get very, very thin, as I try and wean myself off sugar. because it's really taken its toll. It's something I could get away with, and I can't get away with it any longer. It's a whole subject for another video, really. I was going to bring out, and I still might do this, a video called Sugar, 1 Lump or 2, because I have worked with a lot of cancer patients, and sugar has hugely been implicated with the speeding up of the growth of cancers. Sugar and yeast has been hugely implicated in cancer, amongst numerous other things, like it crashes the immune system. More addictive than heroin. I think the statistics are 8 times more addictive than heroin. Certainly I would class myself as an addict where it comes to food. Like I say, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I've never done drugs in my life, I drink lots of water, I do eat healthily to a certain degree, but that's if there's anything left for me on that side, the physical side, to do, most certainly it's that. So I might bring a video out on that. I think I like to talk experientially. I like to be seeing it, witnessing, going through it, or come through the other side of it before I can share. So I may well bring out a video later on. I need to be so many weeks into it. I can tell you straight away now, I will not be stopping sugar dead. I will wean myself off it. I know from my history, if I stop anything dead, my body goes into a state of shock, because I do have multiple health issues going on at the moment, because my body, is not a very happy, I'm not very happy in the body at the moment. There's a lot of things going on that need sorting out, and I end up in hospital for a long period of time. So I will not be stopping it like that. I will wean myself off it. Have a lifetime of that, so that the body goes into a state of shock if you just stop anything dead. Or I say that's generalizing. Not everybody reacts that way. Certainly I react that way. I have very sensitive energy fields, so to stop anything dead is pretty catastrophic for me. Within days I go into a state of shock, and then I have to it knocks me for 6 actually. So I've deviated completely off here, which I didn't mean to do so, and it's just gone on long enough, this video, really. So if I, haul it back in here, the Reformation of Relationships. This is actually, well, I say I've deviated off, but we could attribute what I just said to the relationship with yourself. Some people would say the relationship you have with yourself, and actually I would agree with that, is the most important of all. And yet, ironically, it's the last one we consider. Certainly the last one I ever considered. It's funny, as a mum, previously I'd been in a very long marriage. I'm not in that marriage any longer, but as that time as a wife, and as a mum, I think you get into a habit of not considering yourself first. Certainly as a woman in the Western world, we're not brought up to consider ourselves first. It may be changing now in the younger generations, but certainly in my generation we were brought up as caregivers, and certainly I've worked a huge chunk of my life in caregiving professions. In the spiritual community I've been in now 15 years. Before that, into teaching. I've always been in a role where I've been in a caregiver kind of role. So again, the relationship we have with ourselves is literally being reformed as well. It has to, actually. It has to, because you can't get away from that. You can't get away from that. I was going to say you can't get away from that piece of the picture. Actually, in some ways that's the foundation of everything. So there's nothing, no stone unturned here, and nothing untouched. Anyway, I hope I haven't waffled there. I'd just like to say, on a personal note, and it's funny, you can feel that I'm really talking from the heart again. When I talk from the heart, I just well up on my heart. I just get a wave of it from my heart. My eyes just fill up again. On a personal note, yeah, I just really love you guys, and I just want to thank all of you that send me so much love. You send me so much good wishes. I want to thank so many people for watching my videos, for coming to me as clients, for subscribing to my channel. I never, for 1 minute or one moment, take it for granted. I sometimes, you know, it's been, my journey has been very windy, like many of yours. If it hadn't have been, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't be able to help you the way that I help you. But I never for 1 minute or 1 moment take the position I'm in for granted. The position I'm in meaning that so many of you across the world, in a way, entrust me and resonate with me enough to help me to be in the position where I can do what I love, which is what I do. And on that note, I will love you and leave you before I get too teary. That's one of the amazing things of being in the heart as well. You just whoosh, you just well up with it. When you feel really happy or you really want to express something or really touched, you just go. And I think people feel that and see that as well. Anyway, on that note, keep moving forward. Amazing times. You know, I know there's a lot of other stuff flying about in the world that doesn't seem so amazing at the moment. Keep the faith. Stay in your heart. That's where the truth is. No matter what you're seeing, what you're hearing, you follow that. And, you know, keep moving forward, because this planet and this human race is moving forward. It's all gone the right way. I will love you, and I will leave you until we meet again. Thank you, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.